Hey there, Lionesses. This is Bobby Carlton. I'm the publisher and editor-in-chief of Lioness magazine for the female entrepreneur. I'm also the founder of Innovation Women, an online speaker bureau. Today, we are here talking with Jessica Korthuis. She is the founder of Sohuis, which is an educational platform and membership community that provides marketing and branding educational resources to help early stage founders brand and market their businesses. And on top of that, there's more. Jessica runs the Lucy Lab Accelerator. Welcome.
Hi, Bobby. Thank you for having me. It's quite an introduction.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming and joining me today. So we bonded almost immediately over the fact of many facts, but one in particular, we're both accidental entrepreneurs. So tell me a little bit about your origin story. How did you become an entrepreneur?
Sure. Yeah. Very quickly. I was raised by a single mom. So my mom and I are very close to this day. And I always start there because being raised by a single mom, having the opportunity to move into entrepreneurship and try all these creative things, it just wasn't really part of my upbringing. You do good in school, you get a soccer scholarship or whatever it was at the time, and you go up into a company, get your health insurance, all the things, right? That very traditional working model. And I was doing that. I had no interest in entrepreneurship. I didn't understand it. And at the time, when I was in college, which was a long time ago, they weren't teaching entrepreneurship the way that they do now, right? It wasn't involved in the curriculum the way that it is now. So I just had no experience with it whatsoever. And it wasn't until I was working for a global fashion brand on their PR team, and my job was eliminated across the United States. They just eliminated my job. And I found myself with no backup plan. And because that was my plan, that's what I had, gone on to do. And so that weekend, my then boyfriend, now husband, we decided, let's just start our own branding agency. He had the tech creative background. I had the sales, marketing, and PR background, right? Can't be that hard, right? Famous last words. And we started the agency that weekend. We built our crappy first landing page and printed our business cards off of Vistaprint, and we were in business Monday morning, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since.
Oh my gosh. So what was your aha moment like? Where did this whole thing start?
Yeah, sure. So it was kind of a series of aha moments for me. The first big thing is working in more traditional environments. I was always the troublemaker, and I could never figure out why. I was the type of person who I would look at a problem and see 50 different solutions, and that always got me in trouble. No, Jessica, we don't do it that way. Or I would just simply ask questions like, we're doing it in 12 steps. What, if we just move this over here and did this way, we could do it in 4. And that always got me in trouble. And it wasn't until I became a business owner and an entrepreneur that I realized that all these things that were air quote wrong about me before really thrived in an entrepreneurial environment. These things that were bad about me before were actually really good qualities as a business owner. And so it took me a while to kind of come into my own in that way and kind of really learn how those skills could be an asset. And then the other part of it is, I don't know if I'm just a natural rebel at heart. I don't mean to be. This is where you and I kind of connected, Bobby. I'm a Scorpio for what that's worth. I was an athlete my entire life. And so I'm very self-driven and self-motivated internally anyway. And I just had the drive to just build something of my own that I could have ownership over and that I could participate in. And I was able to do that in a much more freeing environment in entrepreneurship versus working for others.
Nice. So there's 2 different things you've got going here, Sohuis and then Lucy Lab. So
Mhm.
first question is, of course, who's Lucy?
Yes. Lucy is our elephant. So, back to, why the company. This is actually my second company. My first one, as I mentioned, was an agency that we had for about 5 years. We got to work with global brands, and it was awesome and amazing and a super wild ride. I became a mother in 2016. And so that really gave me a different pivot again. And that's how I got into doing what we're doing now, which is creating educational platforms and online education versus me being the core consultant, if you will, like I was doing before. And so when I built the second company, I had figured out some things along the way with the first time around. And I knew that I really wanted to build a company that stood for more than just, we help women with marketing and branding, right? Because there's so many amazing marketers out there. And so our logo is an elephant, and her name is Lucy. And the elephant is the brand iconography for Sohuis because of a bunch of different reasons, primarily being elephants are matriarchal societies, in case you didn't know. And elephants pass down generational knowledge through their herd. And I really felt that that was something that was missing in the marketplace. Marketing in particular is such a ethereal, abstract, almost kind of hard thing to touch and to kind of contextualize, especially for early stage female founders, our audience that we really love to serve. And I just felt like, absolutely not. Like, if I never went to school for marketing, I learned all of this on my own over the course of 10 years. And if we can pass down that knowledge to other founders, we are helping them create wealth. We are helping them live their lives by their own rules. We are helping them do things in their lives that they never thought that they could do. And so that's one of the big reasons for Lucy. And that's the inspiration behind our accelerator, the Lucy Lab.
Nice. Okay. Let's dig down into entrepreneurship and marketing. Like, these two things go together, but at the same time, I feel like often marketing is perhaps misunderstood or not appreciated enough.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Entrepreneurship and marketing are so interrelated, for so many reasons, right? Like, sure, there are absolutely best practices you can follow, certain tactical things that you can do from a marketing perspective, all of which we teach in our programs. But at the end of the day, what really makes something marketable is the story behind the company, right? It's the brand, it's the juice, it's the meat of the matter. At the end of the day, every founder, for the most part, is doing some version of what someone else has already done. There's really no reason to reinvent the wheel. The chances that someone's going to create the next Uber or Airbnb is relatively low because there's so many innovative solutions in the marketplace. That's a good thing, actually, for founders, because then it tells them that those businesses are validated, right? So it really boils down to what makes something marketable is its purpose, the problem it solves, and its placement in the world, And that's what makes some of the best entrepreneurs are the founders and the teams who are solving a problem that they personally struggle with, that they personally know, that they intimately understand. Those make the best entrepreneurs, and those also make the best marketers because they don't have to convince people to buy their products. They don't have to come up with some fancy marketing slogan or campaign to convince someone to download their ebook or whatever it is that they're doing, right? Because they are the customer, and all they have to do is just sympathize and empathize with the customer journey. And that's what makes the best marketing campaigns.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some of those entrepreneurs you're working with. Can you share some stories from some of the women founders who've come through the Lucy Lab?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. And one that really resonates with me is a founder. Her name is Shannon Leon. She's the founder of VPAC for Women. It's a subscription box service that is dedicated to helping women with UTIs and incontinence and other urinary health issues for a bunch of different reasons. And what I love about her story is she was an entrepreneur for 14 years before she felt brave enough to really tell her story. And what makes her story so impactful is she's given me permission to share this. She suffered from UTI and incontinence for years and years and years and years. And she never was able to find a community that supported this. She found that, this topic is taboo, right? All these things, right? So she developed her business based off of her own need to find a solution that she couldn't find. And the first time she ever went through Lucy Lab, she shared publicly, to our group, her journey of incontinence. And it was really emotional for her to do that, right? Like, it's a super vulnerable position for her to be in. Come to find out, her sharing her journey led to other women sharing their journey. And it just was this compounding effect. And now she has built this brand based off of her own experience, and it humanizes who she is. It humanizes the brand. And she's done a lot of things post Lucy Lab. She ended up using the pitches she created in our program, and she sort of restructured it, and she submitted it to a grant for American Express, and she won $25,000 with what she learned in the Lucy Lab. Yep. And it's all about telling her story and positioning the brand in a certain way. And she also launched her very first conference ever called Moms That Pee Their Pants. Love. She had 2,500 people sign up for this conference.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. She never would have been able to do that if she didn't feel confident and comfortable and just like living and being the brand. So I love her particular story.
That is a great story. And is that part of what you bring out is that part of what you're doing with the Lucy Lab? What do you do there?
Absolutely. So the Lucy Lab, from a curriculum perspective, it's really dedicated for female entrepreneurs who have some sort of product or solution, like MVP, prototype, something, and they want to expedite their launch into market. And so what that means is that we've got to understand what's the unique value proposition of the company. Does it have product market fit? Is there a customer for this? And if so, who and how much will they pay? And then after we figure all that out inside Lucy Lab, then we actually brand the thing. And that's where a lot of founders go wrong, is they don't understand that there really is a certain type of due diligence that you have to perform before you ever even build any part of the brand, right? You have to get validation of who the customer is and what their pain points are and how you solve those pain points, right? You have to understand how your product brings value and what type of value it brings, right? All these things. So what happens is most founders skip over all that and they jump right to like, let me just build my logo or let me create my website. And it's like, cool, but like you haven't validated anything about the business and how the market is going to respond to your product or solution. So that's what we typically do in the Lucy Lab, and we do that over an 8-week time frame. So it truly is an accelerator in the truest sense of the word. What took me years to figure out and what takes, I've talked to so many founders who spend thousands of dollars in money and years trying to figure this out. We had them do it in 8 weeks.
Nice. And we'll also have information about getting involved with the Lucy Lab in the story. Yes. So do not worry, folks. We will always take care of you. You know that. Did the pandemic change or not change Lucy Lab?
It did. It changed in some ways, and not in others. In a way, I'm going to botch the statistic, but I think it's something to the effect of like, there was a 500% increase in LLC registrations in 2020. It was just some ridiculous amount. And I found that as soon as the pandemic hit, just women in general were just like, forget this. Like, forget me slaving away at this job that I hate. I am over it. I am ready to do something. I'm finally ready to launch that blog that I've been thinking about for the past 10 years. I'm finally ready to take a crack at this entrepreneurship thing. And what we find is most of the women who come through our programs, they're not trying to be the next tech mogul, right? They're not trying to be a gazillionaire. What they're trying to do is build a business that brings them joy. What they're trying to do is create something that they love. And it's really incredible to see how women come into Lucy Lab with this kind of abstract idea of kind of what they want to achieve. They know sort of like what they want to do. And then they end up leaving Lucy Lab with like this super crystal clear brand, this thing that is marketable and really stands on 2 feet. And then ultimately we end the program with a live demo day. So it's a pitch competition. It's not meant to be scary. It's not Shark Tank. What it is can you in under 3 minutes or less say who you are, what you do, why your product or solution is successful or helpful or differentiated, why it's valuable, and how do you do it? And most of the founders cannot do that in under 3 minutes when they first enter the program. They can at the end.
Nice.
So that's really also too what it's about.
That's great. So turning to the personal here.
Sure.
You work closely with your life partner. Mm-hmm. And how do you guys manage time, relationship, family when you're basically working side by side on a regular basis?
Yeah, such a good question. A lot of trial and error. In all seriousness, though, I mean, my husband and I have worked together on different projects over the past probably 7 or 8 years. And the first thing that we did very early on was recognize you are very good at this. I am very good at this. And we've really distributed our buckets accordingly. Now, Sohuis has a co-founder who's not my life partner. I call her my work wife. But my husband in particular, even we did this at the time, we would separate kind of our buckets, what's really in my camp and what's in his camp. And we both had a very clear fundamental understanding and respect for one another in our professional aptitude to be able to sort of own those buckets. So I think that was a really big one. The other thing that we did is we established boundaries very early on in working together. At the time, we were living in a different house, and our office, before we had our office downtown, our home office had French doors. And so we literally made office hours for ourselves. This is before we had kids. Okay. So once kids came into the mix, it got all complicated. So before then, we set office hours like 9 to 4 or 9 to 5 or 10 to 6 or whatever it was. And we really made a team effort to make sure that we honored those boundaries. And we would physically shut the doors of our home office and leave our computers in there. And it was kind of just a physical separation between we're co-founders and partners, and now we're a married couple. And that really helped. And we just made sure to be very intentional about our dialogue and our boundaries and our time.
That's great advice, especially if you're working with your spouse or partner.
Yeah.
So other advice as we come to a close today, we have an audience of thousands of women entrepreneurs, and what kinds of things should they take away from this?
Oh gosh, I have so much. I mean, I think the biggest thing that I would say, and this is from my own experience building 2 companies and from the women that I get to talk to every day, as women, we feel so much pressure to create the perfect Instagrammable looking company. And the reality is that that's complete bullshit. Like the reality is that it takes a lot of failure and hard work. And it's a series of tiny little steps, and something that, we teach this in Lucy Lab, but I'm also a very proud proponent of this, is you don't have to build the whole solution all at once. And that's also a big fallacy for most women. And of course, I'm generalizing, but most women think like, okay, I need to have the whole thing figured out before I ever even get started. And that's the number one way to kill the business. So if you're not sure how to get started, the answer is to literally just start. And just start. And it's not going to be perfect. Your first blog post is going to suck. The first iteration of your product probably isn't going to be very good. And that's part of the process. And the learning is the biggest part about entrepreneurship that oftentimes gets overlooked. But in the learning is where you end up finding like the little gems that really make your company really unique. And then you can build from there.
That sounds awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. We've been talking with Jessica Korthuis. She is the founder of Sohuis and the Lucy Lab. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.